I mean, it sounds like the devil and Jesus, because my understanding is that Jesus' Jesus' resurrection after death on the cross is what defeats Satan, and that's the end times it's talking about, or seems to be suggesting. But of course, that was 2,000 years ago. So if that was the case, it sort of suggests that we're already in heaven. And if that's the case, I would like my money back, please. This week, I've read chapters 6 to 8 of the book of Daniel from the Old Testament, and this is my summary, so you don't have to read it. You're welcome. This seems to move on to a new king, King Darius it talks about. And we had King Belshazzar previously, who was the son of Nebuchadnezzar. And it's interesting because Belshazzar seemed to be very much a Babylonian king. And the one after this King Darius is Cyrus, who seems to be very much a Persian king. So this Darius guy seems to be some sort of transitional king between the two. And I don't know the history of how Babylonia turned into Persia. But it seems, it doesn't sound like there's any great conquest or anything. It just seems almost like Babylon merges into Persia. But anyway, Daniel is still held in very high esteem by King Darius, and he's very pleased with him. This, as you may recall from the previous video, annoyed some of the other senior people in Darius's government, as it were, and they tried to get Daniel killed and thrown into a fire, and he was fine. This time, they decide that what they're going to do is they're going to trick King Darius into setting some sort of law that says that no one can worship, or rather, no one can pray to any god for the next 30 days. This, I don't know how they did this. It's just a bit of a weird thing because Darius is very pleased with Daniel, and seems odd, but there we go. Daniel obviously can't not pray to God for 30 days, so he does this. But of course, these other government official type things have been spying on him because they've set this trap literally to catch him out. So they catch him in the act of praying to God, go to King Darius, and tell him what's happened. Interestingly, Darius is very unhappy about this and tries to get out of it, but it seems his own rules are sort of cast iron, so he can't even overrule his own decree. So it's a bit weird there anyway. It seems he can't get out of this, so it just doesn't make a great deal of sense why he made the rule in the first place. But there we go. So the decree was, unfortunately, that anyone caught praying to someone within those 30 days would be thrown into a lion's den, as in pit full of lions that eat you. So this is then what happens, that Darius says, okay, well, there's nothing we can do about this, and in Daniel goes to the lion's den. It cuts away then to Darius, who seems to have, he's quite unhappy about this, and he's kind of sulking, he has no tea or anything like that, so he's a bit miserable. But then it turns out he's delighted in the morning, we might have guessed, that he goes to check on this stuff and finds that Daniel's actually fine. It turns out that how this worked out fine for Daniel is that the Archangel Gabriel, doesn't call him Archangel here to be fair, but the guy from Christmas, turns up and does something to make sure the lions are all very happy and doesn't seem to go with any sort of problem. And then the fun bit is that Darius is so miffed at his other governmenty type people who tricked Daniel and had this problem that he decides he's going to throw them in the lion's den instead, along with their wives and children, but I guess that's how they did things back then. And yeah, they then get eaten. Darius then declares, as Belshazzar did before him, that Daniel's God is the real one and everyone should worship this guy, and everything seems fine. And it seems like this pleasant attitude towards Daniel continues on to Cyrus later on. Predictably, it then goes completely nuts. We go to chapter 7, which oddly goes back to the time of King Belshazzar and talks about a vision that Daniel had with 4 beasts in it, and it's really trippy. If you want a great example of just how difficult and mad the Old Testament is, try reading Daniel chapter 7, just for maybe have a few drinks before you do it. You'd blow your mind watching this thing. There's a bit in here I should just read to you because I think it's going to be really important in the New Testament. I happen to know that's a bit that's going to come back. So we need to go and get the keeper of the book to sort that out. So in chapter 7, verse 13 and 14, it says, this is Daniel talking about what's in his vision. In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days, and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. I have cheated a little bit there because I happen to know this coming on the clouds of heaven thing is going to be a big deal later on because Jesus talks about it. But yeah, that's where that's from anyway. That's only one small part of this big vision, and the vision seems to be largely about 4 beasts. And interestingly, Daniel doesn't understand what the vision's about, but very cleverly goes to someone in the vision and asks them what it's about, and they tell him. So that's quite handy. This explanation comes anyway, that the 4 beasts are 4 kingdoms that are going to rise from the earth. And it says, but the holy people of the Most High will receive the kingdom and will possess it forever. We then have another vision, which handily Gabriel comes and explains. And it says it's talking about it's the end times. And it seems to make reference to Persia and Greece, which was obviously like 2,000 years ago, more than 2,000 years ago. And then Gabriel's talking about a master of intrigue will arise during the reign of the Persians and the Greeks. Deceit will prosper, and this master of intrigue chap will stand against the prince of princes. Yeah. But basically this baddie will end up being destroyed, but not by humans. So, yeah. I mean, it sounds like the devil and Jesus, because my understanding is that Jesus' Jesus' resurrection after death on the cross is what defeats Satan. And that's the end times it's talking about, or seems to be suggesting. But of course, that was 2,000 years ago. So if that was the case, it sort of suggests that we're already in heaven. And if that's the case, I would like my money back, please. It's again, it's this prophecy problem of things are so difficult to interpret, or could be interpreted in so many different ways. And so much of it does sound like it matches up with Jesus and all the rest of it, and the crucifixion. It fits really well. And again, we know that the book of Daniel was written before Jesus' time because we have it in the Dead Sea Scrolls dated before then. But yeah, what do you do with that? Again, it's just such a great fit in so many ways, but then it does suggest that all this stuff happened thousands of years ago and it's all done and dusted, and theoretically we wish we shouldn't be here anymore. So I don't know. I think probably a lot of that is going to be in my interpretation of it, and I'm just getting it wrong. I mean, if it's true, obviously, then one way or another that fits. If it's not, then it's still an interesting tie-up with the whole Jesus thing and what we know factually happened with the Jesus thing, and then what's Jesus actually achieved, as it were. But yeah, a whole bunch of crazy. And again, sort of odd miracles with Daniel and the whole situation of why would Darius make that rule. I mean, we don't have the context. It could be a perfectly good explanation for that. But Daniel, everybody keeps trying to get him into trouble, and he keeps getting out of it. But again, Daniel seems like one of the best human beings in the whole of the Old Testament. So, yeah, we will go on anyway and see what else finds, and hopefully some of this stuff will start to drop in and make some sense.